Right then, so hello everyone and welcome to the first ever, I guess, pseudo podcast for the channel. We do all welcome you in, and we'll be here for the next hour or so discussing our thoughts and reviews over Resident Evil Remake 2, which has been out for just under a month now. Was it Friday the 25th, wasn't it? January?
I think so,
25th.
yeah.
I think it was, yes.
Yeah, 25th.
That's the one. So, and of course, by we, we do have guests with us. We have ourselves PistolPete.
Hey guys, I'm my PistolPete.
He is
Done
Pistol.
some yeah.
Not I
Done
pissed
some
Pete anymore.
playthroughs. Not I PistolPete, but PistolPete, whatever. Yeah, it's all the good.
ShotgunJen.
Yeah, hi guys. You know me by now.
And I'm very proud to announce that from some undisclosed location, we are in fact joined by Raccoon Police Department's very own Officer Harry's best friend, Cormag.
Hello. Best friend. Oh, I'm best friends with Harry. Hello.
Oh dear me. I mean, you've had enough of him in the streams. I think it was only fair. Hence the picture, folks. In Harry we trust. In Harry we trust. So yes, as we said, Resident Evil Remake 2 has been out for just under a month now. Of course, I've had plenty of content on my channel as well as Pete as well. And I think, generally speaking, the overall thoughts of the game's been pretty positive, I think. It's generally seemed to have been well received.
Yeah, definitely. I really like the game. I have a few small issues with it, but overall, definitely really solid. One of the better of the series, I feel.
Especially recently, because obviously I think it's a series that's perhaps struggled a bit for identity in the past. In the recent past, certainly. I mean, I've not played like 6 and 7 yet. They're coming soon, folks.
Don't go near
promise.
6.
Yeah, I think
it
it
doesn't like 6.
Yeah, it is probably the end on most people's lists, isn't it? 6.
It
Yeah.
generally
Definitely
seems
is
to
for
be.
I think it's the bottom for
But-
most.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've heard mixed things about it, but we're not here about talk about Resident Evil 6. So
Oh, yeah,
for
6
a
is-
remake. By the way, as well to the folks in the chat, and I'll mention this a couple of times as we go along. If you guys got any questions, particularly you want us to answer, then towards the back end of the stream, I'll be trying to take some notes of bits and pieces we might have missed, and hopefully we'll get a chance to address them as well. And of course, if you're on the YouTube, then I mean you can try, but unfortunately, we may not be able to answer your questions in the comments. But we'll appreciate it nonetheless. So I would say the game's been out of that. Anything particular? So if you had to pick like one thing, like you had to choose from the whole game, like it can be whatever the heck you want. 6 is amazing. Second only Operation Raccoon City. Divisive
About
comment.
that one.
So you had to pick one thing from the remake that you just think and just thought, what a great decision. I'm so glad they brought that in. If you had to pick one thing.
What brought it back, or like
Well,
one
of
thing
the
is really
game
good
you've
about the game?
enjoyed, whether it's something you've played or a concept or something they've done, anything you like. You know, the graphics, the whatever else. I was about to say the music, but we'll get to the music choices later on.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that I liked about it. I suppose the thing that stood out for me is, I don't know, kind of like the gameplay. I liked it. I did.
The general
really
reviews
tight.
the controls are very sharp and pretty responsive. Handled pretty well.
Yeah, the controls, the gameplay, sort of like never knowing when a zombie's how many bullets a zombie's gonna take. Is gonna take 4. It's bullets. Is it gonna take 14?
Sometimes
like-
it did seem to take
yeah.
14 an awful lot, especially if you're playing on
you never
standard
know.
mode. As I'm sure our good friend Cormag can reliably inform us about, who has played this game probably about as much as the three of us combined. Because he's not
Oh, God.
constrained.
Yeah, I
he's
played
not
on
constrained by
standard.
LP restrictions. So I mean, you've played the game what, like 8-9 times or something?
Oh, God. It's been way more than that.
Whoa.
Oh God, right. We got a master.
There's the weekly challenges.
Oh
which,
yeah, of course you've had all that stuff as well.
Yeah.
He's after all the platinums in the world. He's doing all right. I think he's on the front page actually of re.net, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I'm in
nice.
there somewhere.
He's desperate. He is desperate to stay on there as long as you can. I mean, some of them look pretty challenging. Some of them I don't think it's so bad. But having played the game as much as you have, then is it a case of, do you think the same as well? It feels really responsive. The game feels very tight controls.
Yeah, I really like how it controls. I remember back in the demo, I was kind of worried how it would control on PC because like there's previous RE games where the PC controls have been a bit naff. I was just like, ugh. But no, it's like movement and stuff on like keyboard and mouse is what I use. It's really smooth. It's really fluid.
It's certainly, I think it's easier for PC, especially when it's come like I've been doing like some of the speed runs on the channel or attempted speed runs. They've been pretty tricky using a controller. I think that's the things easier, certainly for PC. And to be fair, that shows as well because obviously there you got. If you, I think you've kind of got like almost two halves to Remake. You've kind of got the half that's the main game, which you can take at a very slow, methodical pace. And then you've got all the extra stuff. So you've got Hunk, Tofu, and of the recent edition of the Ghost Survivors, I just think is fantastic, which of course is completely the opposite and is just absolute, just borderline madness sometimes and just total chaos. But I think it was fantastic, and it's nice to actually have some free DLC for a game in an era where we're kind of trapped in microtransactions for just about everything you can think of. It's nice to have something for free for once from Capcom.
Yep.
So
I think Capcom become one of my favorites now for making games.
That's a big statement. I don't know if I'd say that.
Oh yeah, I don't know. It's just I seem to be playing their games all the time, like Monster Hunter. I'm playing, and obviously Resident Evil 2 now, and they did Dragon's Dogma.
Fair enough. And so something that I know Pete wanted to make a mention of and wanted to bring up was some of the characters in the game. Obviously, the characters have had a huge change since the initial remake. How they sort of interact, which is all well and good, and we'll get more to the changes for the remake itself a little bit later on. But in particular, you want to talk about like with Ada and Sherry and those segments on the side.
Oh yeah, you get two different bits, don't you? Segments, whether you play Leon or Clay, obviously, and. Yeah, they're quite different, those bits, and they paired to the main game.
They
Ada
stand out, that's for sure.
Yeah, you have the Ada bit, and you have the what's it called, the FV something. You scan things, don't you?
Oh, the weird device, which I can only assume is FBI standard issue, or so the game tries to tell me. I don't know what that's
1998. About. Yeah, you got to scan these things. I really didn't like that bit. That was probably my least favorite of the Leon section of the game. I thought if they did any more of that, oh god, you would have been losing my interest. Like, I didn't see much point to that. But I mean, there weren't too much of it though, and it was only small sections, so you know.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad.
EMF got completely wrong.
Thank you, Raven. Yeah, I have been reliably informed that apparently I did make mention in the series it was a bit on the far-fetched side, but when it comes to say I've been told Resident Evil 6, apparently that's not even remotely far-fetched compared to some of the stuff that goes on in Resident Evil 6, but I can't say for that personally.
Yeah, I suppose it is a lot like that. I suppose that was kind of a sixth element they brought to the table, I guess.
I know I was a bit critical, I think, of Sherry's section as well. I think probably a bit unfairly. I'm never a big fan of sort of like, I like the idea of like the sort of the chase sort of set pieces. I got nothing against with, especially when you've got Chief Irons deciding he wants to imitate various movies and sending axes through doors. But I've never been a huge fan of games of those sort of chase sequences where you have to do something kind of basically perfectly. Otherwise, you fail, and that's it. You know, there's no margin for error, which I've never been a big fan of in video games sometimes. But they do have their place. I'm not gonna let them. They're only little sections, though. I don't think they criticise too heavily much. Speaking of other characters, well, you've obviously, as I mentioned, Chief Irons, who has completely changed from a paranoid man to, I think, probably a total psychopath.
Oh yeah, he's gone full Ted Bundy, hasn't he?
Ted Bundy. Good grief.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean though. You have to do it a certain way with the Sherry bit. I love the Sherry bit because it was great horror for me at least, and I preferred it to the Ada. But like you said, the gameplay bit is kind of shitty because there's only one way to do it. Like you can't really be creative. You've got to get to a certain point, and then I'm safe. And so the gameplay was probably a bit shit, but the actual story and the creepiness of the orphanage I really liked, and how Chief Iron just comes after you and stuff like that. But yeah, I found Sherry's to be better than Ada's part. If I was going back and had to play which one, I'd play Sherry's bit.
I think a special mention as well, honourable mention to the Orphanage for most contrived puzzle in a video game that I've played in the last several years award, which has to go to the block puzzle to get a pair of scissors to take off some tape to remove a piece of cardboard blocking a hole in a wall. What was that about? What was that
Well,
about?
you know,
Someone please tell me.
maybe she couldn't rip it, you know.
But why couldn't she rip it? She's like 12 years old. Or something.
Yeah, but these scissors, they're like the sharpest thing. You need to cut through
The heck
things,
they
you know?
are. Did you see those? I'd give those to I mean, I think anyone would struggle with those. They're like the pair of scissors you give to like a 6-year-old or something to like mess about with.
No, they were in plastic, I'm sure. They were.
It was an absurd puzzle. I mean, unless you had to do it like stealthily so that, you know, Iron somehow didn't hear it, although he no longer was there. Little things, folks. But it shows that it's, even nowadays, 2019, you still have these areas where the logic doesn't necessarily make sense. I suppose it doesn't have to make sense. But that always stuck me out. It's just like, what's going on here? Something else I have to make a mention of as well before we move on is I think personally I've liked they took the opportunity to kind of flesh out more characters as well on the side. So you have obviously like Elliot, the police officer, who met a pretty grisly end, and you've got as well. I think it was a lovely addition having Kendo and totally reworking him and having his daughter as well. I think it was quite a nice little scene. You know, it brought some humanization to, you know, previously he was just a man who sort of, you know, had his gun shop and got murdered. And then you've got, you know, in the remake, he's got a daughter he's trying to protect. He's lost his wife. You know, his world's coming down across him. And of course, we come into the Ghost Survivors. He's about to off himself and then gets the call and then decides to move on. Umbrella grade tape, clearly. The industrial stuff. You know.
Yeah, but Kendo doesn't really have much of a bit, though. I know, like, he has, like, his own little story. It would have been good to have, like, more of him in the playthrough, but I guess they were thinking, maybe you couldn't have too much, but I would have liked to see more Kendo.
Yeah.
I'm so used to seeing him at the beginning of the game, just seeing him, like, halfway through it
was kind of weird.
Right.
It was a bit out of place, but it was good, though. Of course, I'll forever sing Marvin's praises because Marvin is one of the greatest human beings there's ever been. And I think also a special mention to Hello Human, one of my favourite lines from the game. It's a shame, Ben, actually. He gets like about 35 seconds on the game and then gets brutally murdered by a tyrant. Poor bastard.
Yeah, he doesn't have too long either. He has even less, doesn't he?
He doesn't. I don't know how long he is. He has the time he's on screen is great because he has some they really gave him some good lines. And then he just died. He just got murdered by a tyrant, which I suppose made more sense than the original, but still not too bad. So yeah, I really enjoyed those. Something else as well I think is worth discussing. That again Pete mentioned of as well. Was the boss fights. Yay, Marvin!
Oh, yeah,
Marvin,
Go on, Pete.
Marvin's happy. Yes, boss fights in the game. The big set pieces of any video game.
Yeah, we need to discuss this in quite some detail, I think. It's a big part of the game, isn't it? Boss fights. Should we go from 1 to like?
I mean,
4,
you don't sound too happy about them.
Well, they're all right, I suppose, but I wouldn't call them amazing. There's one that particularly I didn't enjoy.
I think I have the same opinion on that
I think
one
probably
too.
a lot of people have the same opinion about this.
I think everybody does, right?
And then I assume this is referring to,
Shadow
I think G2, I think it's known as the second one with the crate. Or is this a different one? I might be wrong here. I know I had
G2's here I was referring to, but I don't know if Pete is referring to somebody else.
Yeah, G2 I was referring to. I don't know if...
Yeah, with the crate
I
fight.
hated that fight first, first dozen of fights I did with him. I hated it. Never liked it in any place.
Oh. Correct. You just cut out there. That was interesting.
No.
Hello. That was weird.
Oh, you're back.
What was that? That was interesting.
No.
But yeah, the G2, yeah, I mean, I was a bit critical of that fight, certainly when I first got there. I think it was partially because I wasn't fighting him particularly well. I was making a bit of a ham fist of it and how to try and deal with him, admittedly. Although it made me delightful because I delved into the stats in 1 or 2 videos for the game, and it turns about 2/3 of players, the first time they ever get to that fight, hit themselves with the crate. So at least I didn't feel that bad about it. But I think there is. I mean, especially when you think of this game, you're always brought back to 20 years beforehand, back to the original 1998 version. You think of some of those boss fights, and they are really they're quite iconic. With a lot of fights of Birkin. I remember them incredibly well. You can just hear the music in the background, the area around you. It's really awesome stuff. But I think perhaps they lacked a bit of impact in the Remake 2, although it's a hard act to follow.
Well, what did you think, Jen, of the boss fights?
Oh,
I just wonder if you're still there.
yeah. No, I didn't get asked earlier what stood out for the game for me, so I didn't
I
want
was
to
waiting for you to
disturb
pitch in. Sorry.
it. No. Sometimes I struggle to think of something in that, but no, I'll just say that it was just like the graphics for me. And just like the gameplay and that for like the remake, because I'm massive on graphics. Like,
no, they did a good job of that, certainly.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't pitch in earlier about that, but
just tell me to shut up. That's fine. Just tell me to shut up. That'll do.
As everyone knows, I'm really quiet and shy, so.
Well, you wouldn't know that. Judging from some of the outbreak stuff, you'd never know that, would you, folks? Opening doors with smoke below them, or berating people for this, that, the other. Chatting with Carter in below freezing point without realizing about the handgun, and
Oh yeah, remember that? Right?
That was tragic.
I suppose
But I will say one thing though
aspect.
is that the remake all throughout it did have me. Like, my legs were always like jelly because I didn't know what was going to pop out, and it always kept me on edge, and that's what I liked about it. That's what stood out to me as well.
Given the fact that it's in a weird spot of having to tell a story which was already told 20 years ago, but having to tell it, lads, in you don't know the plot, yet the majority of the player base probably know exactly the rough story of things, which is a pretty tricky spot to get in. So I think they had to certainly focus on the actual gameplay and getting the tension and the jumps in on the gameplay, because you're not going to fool anyone in the plot, because we all know the plot, which makes it very difficult.
Yeah.
So I don't think it was too bad, though. But yeah, I go back to the bosses, though. They felt like they could have been a bit more remarkable. Maybe perhaps like with the... I know you've got the option of running the game with like the original music from 1998, which I know Cormag's done plenty. I don't know if that makes the bosses any better or not.
Oh, it gets you pumping.
It doesn't make G2 better.
It doesn't make G2 better.
Nothing's going to do that.
Yeah.
Poor G2.
No, I think G1 was probably one of my favorites. I think where you fight him and he's screaming at you, William Birkin, help me, Sherry.
I noticed that, didn't I, Pete?
Yeah, all the steam's coming out, and it's like you have to run around the pillars, and you don't know where you're going first off and stuff. So I think that was one of the better ones.
It was like the conflict of, like, you could see like the conflict of like him going between like his human side and the like G side. Like, you could see like him struggling, and like when he disappears for a moment, you don't know where he is, and then like he grabs you and he's looking at you, like that look in his face, if like, look, help me. I just found out like really good how they put that in there.
I think
the first one is good, isn't it?
He's a man that's conflicted, and he's got all the stuff going on. I think the moral of the story is don't do drugs, kids. Aside from that, it's
don't do G's.
Yeah, no, it was something that was commented certainly on the videos. I didn't receive that too well at the first time. That was slightly my own fault, because I walked into the boss fight with a handgun, and I was like, oh shit. So I wasn't focusing too much on what was going on around me. I was just like, I've got a handgun. What do I do? So that was slightly my own damn fault there. But
I wasted all my shotgun bullets on him, and I regretted that.
Yeah, that's not good. That's not good at all.
And that was on standard, so because it takes me. I'm not like you and Pete, like really pro. And if Cormag, if you played on hardcore as well, but I'm not like where I go straight on hardcore. I have to like ease myself into it, because I like to enjoy the game first and then go on the hard difficulties later.
I wouldn't necessarily say that it meant playing on hardcore meant we could enjoy the games. Although I get the impression it completely changed how the game played. 100%. When anything can basically put you straight danger, that's never good. That's never good at all. It is a problem.
Yeah, I like the ink ribbons mechanic though, where you had limited saves. You wouldn't have that in standard, and you had less item inventory spaces. I
Mm.
thought that was a good feature as well. So it gives you that extra.
Yeah, that
Oh
was
shit!
good,
Should I
yeah.
take this or should I put it in the box? You know, you got to plan ahead. Gives yourself.
It's like the
You know,
original, because the original had
strategize.
ink ribbons. I mean, I did find like on like standard, like you don't have ink ribbons, and like I felt like I could save whenever I want. And by the end of like my first play, I'd like 57 saves or something.
I thought I was bad with like 20.
Yeah, but you had. That's probably all you can get.
I
is
didn't
20,
have many
isn't it?
saves left. No, this is true. I
No.
think I missed a couple of ink ribbons somewhere or another. I think there was one like an interrogation room I never went to go back to get because there was a liquor, and I was like, "You can keep that. I think I'll be fine." But yeah, it was a bit of a weird choice, like to have the ink ribbons only for hardcore. I think perhaps they should have maybe made
Yeah,
that
I agree.
available throughout as an option. I don't know. It was a tricky one. That
Yeah,
Is it tricky?
maybe on assisted, maybe let you save whenever you want, but on standard hardcore, maybe you have the ink ribbons. I think.
Mm.
That would be good.
So
Yeah, so
go
with
on.
bosses, yeah. So do we all think they were good, or I think they were not that great, to be honest, apart from the first one. Gameplay wise, I don't know, especially the second one. I didn't like that.
Is that the one with the crane bit?
Yeah, the crane
Yeah, I
scene too.
raged a little bit on that a bit because I just found it a bit unfair, like the little tiny area you got to like fight him, and I kept like mistiming like when to press the button and I kept getting smacked, didn't I, Pete? You watched me keep getting smacked by the crane all the time, dying.
Yeah, I mean, you don't get any dodge button. It's a little platform.
Yeah,
You can actually dodge his attacks once you've learned them, though.
Sort of, yeah, but that is a fair point, actually, the fact that there is no, quote, dodge mechanic, unquote, which, of course, has been a feature in some previous games, which is a fair point. And that did stick out. Certainly there, it stood out that it didn't exist. Whether that was a good thing or not is, I think, up for debate. But I don't know. I don't think the boss fights were terrible. I think some of them
I enjoyed
they could have
them.
been more. I mean, I enjoyed the super tyrant. I think at the end when he just decides he's gonna take his down trench coat off and just have a grand fight on the lift down. That was entertaining. It's bloody hard.
Yeah, that was good.
I don't think that was.
Were
Yeah,
they
I
better
like the
than?
boss fights,
Were they
yeah.
better than the original though? They weren't like
I
as iconic,
think
were they?
So
I think they're below that. Right?
I don't know, because you couldn't really dodge them, could you? Sometimes you had to take a hit, but with the original, like you could sometimes spam them, couldn't you?
Hmm.
For what I remember, because I haven't played the original in a while. But
They're
bit
when you
basic,
go on. Oh.
yeah. No, just I don't know. I don't know with the dodging, like, because you couldn't dodge, could you? But
Well, the thing is, when you're playing, think about 1998 and everything runs a lot more, when it's a lot more tank-like for not just you, but for the enemies as well, there's a lot more ways to kind of exploit the pathing and the AI. So I don't think it's that... I mean, I don't think it was too bad a thing in the remake. It's just that it made the game tricky sometimes, and I got nothing against the
sometimes
game
you had
being
to take a hit,
difficult.
didn't you? Yeah.
Ultimately, it's survival horror, or quote survival horror, unquote. So it's not exactly designed to be easy.
No.
So interesting idea of Raven. Perhaps on standard, just having checkpoints every now and again, and then still having ink ribbons and kind of like combine the two. It's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
I can sort of
Less checkpoints and like some ink ribbons as well. Yeah, that could have worked.
Yeah.
So one thing that I had to bring up, because it's been a source of much contention on my videos. I'm sure it's been a source of contention on Pete's videos. I've had discussion about it in the server. Is Remake as a whole. It's been 20 years since the original game, 1998, and they decided to bring it back, which was, I think, a pretty bold decision. And the question we've had so much in my videos is, how faithful should the game have been to the original? Because they had two choices. They could have either done it much like the REHD did back in 2002, I think it was, to the 1996 original, and be kind of very similar to the original, but update the graphics, add some extra bits in. Instead, they go the other way, and they decide to remake pretty much everything from the ground up. I think bar like the general overall plot and overall characters, nothing else was really the same. And it's been a source of plenty of contention as to, should it have been a lot more faithful to the original game from 20 years ago? Who wants to start this?
Oh, this
a
is a
pretty
difficult
question.
one.
I mean, I was 50-50, like, when I heard it weren't going to be the fixed camera angle. I was like, oh, I wish they'd done what the Resident Evil HD remake done, like the fixed camera angles and that. But I'm not sure whether this is true, but the reason they went the way they did is because of how Resident Evil 7 done. Like, they went back to their survival horror roots, and I think that's what they wanted to do. And I'm glad they didn't do first person. I'm glad about that. But
There are mods.
yeah, but I'm not going to touch them.
No, that's probably a good idea.
First person Resident Evil's not my thing, but yeah, I was 50-50, but I liked it because it weren't exactly a copy, was it, of the original? Like Resident Evil HD 1 remake was, but they like improved on it. But this one felt like the same game but different, and I liked it.
I think it was. I think it was a brave choice to
Yeah,
decide
yeah, it was a
to
brave
do it.
step,
I think it's a
yeah.
very, very brave decision, which I'm going to commend Capcom for making the decision to do it, because, as I said, the series I think has struggled a bit for identity over the past several years. It's changed a
Yeah,
lot,
yeah.
you know, from earlier stuff going on, ever since Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 5, the game has really chopped around. Like, you guys have been doing Operation Raccoon City recently, haven't you? Which of
dear.
course is completely its own thing on its own anyway.
Yeah.
And all that sort of malarkey. But it shows that with 6, 7, the game has changed in its thought process a hell of a lot over the past few years, and they could have easily have done something very familiar to 1998, but they decided to give it that really modern twist to it, which I don't think was a terrible idea. I thought I was going to be really unhappy with it, actually, because I do like playing a lot of the older games. That's why I keep doing Outbreak, because it's kind of that nice little hybrid between, you know, the original style and putting in some action and urgency into it. But I was happy with it, actually. I didn't think it was too shabby. I thought the twists they made on the general thing, I think, were good. I know it's a difficult one, because I think there's always going to be some people that think that it should be like what they did in 2002 with the remaking of the original game, but you can make the argument that was a 6-year difference. This is like 21 years different. How relatable is 1998 now compared to today? It's a different gaming world, surely.
Yeah, they just really tried to modernize it, didn't they, with today's games and everything. And I feel it's worked. Like all the changes they did,
Yeah.
gameplay wise, story wise, was good. I like the fact that it was different. It didn't really feel like I was playing a remake, no, but you could see little moments. You're like, oh yeah, this is like the police end bit or whatever, and you're like, oh, this looks great and looks exactly how you imagine it.
Yeah.
And there was other bits where it could just totally different, wasn't it? Like the sewers and
Oh, I like that.
the
Yeah,
nest
I like how
bit.
they expanded the sewers.
Yeah, well, once you got out of the police station, it was it didn't you weren't recognizable. The game, it was
you wouldn't recognize it much.
You would never have known. It was, if you could have called that anything else and put in a different main character, and you'd have 100% believed it was a different game. There was no relation at all. They expanded out the sewers, which I think was cool. They completely changed the Umbrella Labs, turned it into the Nest. Which I think was nice as well, because it kind of made it feel like more of a living area. You know, in the original, it was kind of more like a place people went to do crazy experiments, whereas in, you know, I feels like in the remake they kind of made it more of like a place that people went and they lived there as well, and they worked on all sorts
a
of
bit like
different
the
things.
film.
Yeah, it was very. Yes, I did comment as well.
Yeah,
It was
a bit
very reminiscent of the Resident Evil 1, certainly in the Hive as it was. So there's a nice little reference.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really
Why
clean.
do people
wasn't it?
find the sewers hard to get around?
Oh, it's like a maze, isn't
I
it?
got lost in the RPD, and yeah, that's sort of like, I know they changed it up a little bit, but I kept getting lost. The sewers, like, I didn't really get that lost.
Oh, I did.
I don't remember having any problems of getting lost in the sewers. Maybe that's just me. I like to think I've got a decent sense of direction a lot of the time, and playing Outbreak a hell of a lot helps with that, right, Cormag? At least I'd like to think so.
Yeah.
You have to.
I still
go on.
No, I was just gonna say I still don't know my way around the police station all too well. I keep forgetting specific locks. I don't know how. I keep like there's one door in the police station where it's like I need the club key for that. I never open it. I'm like, oh dear.
What's going on?
After 9 playthroughs as well.
that is quite concerned. I think that's less. I think that might be less a mark against the game and maybe just a mark against you. Because if you haven't picked it up in 9-10 playthroughs, then I think it's just a lost cause.
It's not my fault. The door was never locked in the original.
So, half those doors
Reading
didn't
room.
exist in the original.
I
That's
play
not my
throughs,
fault.
damn.
Don't worry, I'm with you, Cormac. I still get lost in the RPD, so but I've only played it through twice, so
I think I've just played too many Resident Evil games. And especially with just so much Outbreak and stuff, you just learn to just memorize the map, and it just
yeah.
it's like if someone asked me to. Like, I could probably, in an hour, if someone asked me, sketch out a map of, like, any Outbreak map in the game, I could probably do it. It's kind of sad, really.
Wow.
It's kind
Oh,
of
no.
sad.
Give me your memory. Give me your mind, please.
I will attempt to. Whenever I pass on,
Oh.
you're welcome to my brain. Did I just say that live?
Okay.
I think I just did.
Just transfer it, please, because
Just
I
transfer
can't remember
Get
anything.
like a data jack in. We'll just port it out onto a computer and see what kind of crazy shit's on there. Anyways, returning
So,
back
yeah.
to the topic at
The
hand.
game, yeah. Yeah, what the fuck?
As we have taken a bit of a tangent there. So yes, I've got nothing against the remake. I think it was a brave decision to change it. I think all in all, I think they did a decent job of it. They totally rework a lot of the stages. I was a little bit less convinced on some of the character changes. Much I like to say with Irons, who's a total psycho, which I think is great, and some of it entertaining.
It's creepy.
Yeah, pretty creepy. There have been some comments regarding Leon and Claire themselves, and in particular, them with each other, which was a weird tangent which certainly didn't exist in 1998.
Yeah, that's one of my issues.
Oh, what the? Are you on about the awkward flirting?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's come from time to time. It was
No,
an
we're not going
interesting
into
choice.
this, are we?
Oh, that was painful, man. What was
From a
going on?
woman's point of view, like that is typical flirting. Putting like your arm like against the railings like that, or the grating, and like, oh, I'm just surviving, like, and she flicks her hair, or whatever. That's just typical flirting. I'm like, oh, Claire, please, that's so cringy.
It is a stage because
Mind the zombies behind. Yeah.
it was strange because especially you'd think like if you go to 1998, you would never in a million years even consider the thought that would happen.
No. Never.
But yeah, it was a
Yeah.
very strange one. I mean, the one in the car is fine, but yeah, especially that fire escape is such a weird scene, and it's like
I wish they deleted that.
I don't know. I don't know how to delete
Maybe
it.
strong,
I
but
think they needed something because
changed it.
you only see each other like 3-4 times over the course of the entire game. But it was a bit strange a decision. I mean, I guess ultimately you could say, oh, she's a college student. He's like whatever he is, like 6. So you can understand that. But it was a strange time to do it and a strange place to do it. At the very start, maybe fine. I don't know, but. Literally, as a helicopter on fire, they've had to battle through streets of the undead. He is 6, that is confirmed.
He is 6 years old.
Yes, 100%. It's
Okay.
on his. Ask Irons. He'll confirm it for me.
Oh, okay.
And it is a stranger, but I've got nothing too much against it. It's one of those little things. Just like you look at it, like, do you need that really? Does a video game like that need it really? I don't know.
Nah.
Maybe it's
It definitely didn't. I don't think Leon and, well, especially in the original, weren't romantically interested in each other or flirted at all. It was only Leon flirted with Ada, didn't he? In the original?
Well, I mean, it was a
Obviously,
weird
to some
hybrid. I
extent.
think Leon tried, but was continuously ignored basically.
Yeah.
He had a rough
Ada,
time of it.
wait.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was
oh
very.
no.
It's all very sort of serious, but yeah, there is that weird sort of side to it in there. But I'm not totally against it. And then it gets re-referenced again at the very end with Sherry as well, which
Oh,
was
God.
that was kind of I don't know what I made of that. It was a bit.
It kind of
weird.
felt out of place though, because everything else was so serious and on point and felt real. And then those two scenes where you just talking about there, just like, yeah, it kind of felt like the older stuff, really, didn't it? Like the cheesier dialogue and something that shouldn't have been there, almost.
So
Yeah.
The story did follow the same path, didn't it? It was exactly the same way, except some of the characters were obviously changed and tried to make more real. And
Yeah.
I think all the voice actors did a good job, didn't they?
yeah, I think so.
Overall.
Overall, I mean, they couldn't change
Yeah,
that
really
much
good.
about it. Again, the story's been out for 21 years. I don't know if the remake counts as canon or not compared to the original. I don't know what the state of that affair is. Is because obviously the events of remake do change a bit. There are little differences between this and the original. I don't know what's canon now. I don't know. Is the remake canon? Is it just a reimagining of the original, which is canon? I don't actually know. I kind of went through the game, kind of.
Knows.
Sorry, go on.
No, because I don't think anybody knows like what's canon now and what's not. It's just there's a whole big debate on that one.
They've not. Oh, I suppose. Well, I don't know if Capcom have been a bit clear on that. Maybe not. I think I kind of went through the game, not worrying about that too much. I just kind of looked at it as a reimagining of the original, but I kind of just took everything kind of at face value, I guess. Its suspension of disbelief was a bit challenged at times, but it held most of it, so I'm not going to be too complaining about that. So yeah, I think the remake as well. I think a lot of stuff they changed. I don't think there was much I could complain about too heavily. They took some stuff out, like say that I was hating, looking forward to like. I've known you for less than 2 hours. No, I love you, of course. Less if you speedrun the game, Raven. Even less than that.
It was love at first sight. Can happen.
Right.
Yeah, it can, especially when you see Ada in a red dress, you know.
Are we going to talk about on the topic of Leon and Claire, how they never really interacted? Only that one bit with the awkward flirting, and then they were never seen again together until like the very end. Like that was one of my gripes, because in the original, like you had meet up in the Stars office, like, oh, like Claire, your brother's not here, and always walkie-talkie, and they like constantly like were in contact with each other, weren't they? Like, oh, like it depends on you play first. Oh, Leon, I've blown up the helicopter, whatever. Oh, I found a way out. And in the remake, like they don't communicate at all. I had a little bit of a issue with that, because it didn't feel like it was like, well, what are they doing in the police station, not bumping into each other?
There is a bit of a chasm where there's like a gaping hole where it's something that it surprised me. I didn't really quite notice it in the first playthrough. I wasn't really paying attention to it because I was kind of preoccupied, but I know I commented it during my second run of the game, and I commented it at the end of the main series as well, about it was a strange thing that it never happens, because even in the original, going back to 1998, which is a dangerous thing to do, whether the characters meet up, physically like they do like in the Stars office, or in a couple other points in the game, they've got the walkie-talkies, they talk to each other. There's also a variety of kind of indirect communications and indirect effects of one character affecting the other. Specifically, stuff happening in the A game affecting the B. I think the example I used was Claire with the helicopter, for example, which Leon can never destroy. But if you're playing in the B game, obviously Claire will C4 the helicopter, blow it out the way. She then eventually tells Leon about it, and then as Leon, you can then access said area. Which is
like
really
they help
cool.
each other. Yeah, exactly.
And the same for the B, for the other way around with the car in the police station in the basement. You can access Leon's section. While they never necessarily physically meet, and they never have. And that doesn't happen, there's still those indirect kind of knock-on consequences one way or the other, which certainly
it felt like they were there,
which certainly didn't really exist. You think in, either game, the B game's better, because you find 2 or 3 notes from your companion. That's it, just some messages.
I know, I thought, Capcom, I thought this was a bit lazy. I was like, oh, really? I was like, what did they do?
But especially thinking it's 2019, you've got all the ability in communications and technical. No, the game's set in 1998. Facebook didn't exist, that sort of thing. But it felt like they could have done a lot more of that, and it was something that I think was missing, and it was apparent when you play through the game like a second time, and you're not just trying to understand the game. You play it the second time, you sort of start spotting these little things a little bit more, and that was one that it was just a strange decision.
Yeah, definitely the lack of interactions. They should have done more interactions, I feel. You do feel like the other character doesn't exist as you're playing, do you? You're not like, oh, Claire's doing this right now. It's like she's got deleted or something, isn't it?
I think this is also, largely due to the fact that B games, it's not exactly an A or B game anymore, which Capcom said themselves. They were never really planning to run things as an A game and a B game, hence why it's a first run and a second run. The first and second runs are very largely similar. I think once you get past the police station, it's basically the same game, more or less, until you hit like the very, very end, like the final boss. Other than that, I don't think
Yeah, same.
between like Leon A and Leon B. I'll find out soon when I do the other scenarios. But from what I can tell, apparently there's not much difference. And I would look in Cormag's direction for confirmation of this, as he's again played it a lot more than we have. He's like our gameplay expert out of the four of us.
Well, no, it's the interesting thing is you say that's like they're pretty much the same. I actually find in B runs that the sewers and nest in B runs is actually way easier than it is in an A run or first run, second run. Sorry, it's because like in your second run you get access to the tool early on.
Oh yeah,
and
of course
in
you
nest,
do. Yes,
you get access to the signal modulator thing. You get access to that from the get go as well, and it makes just the entire journey through both places much easier and less hassle.
So what about compared to say like a Leon A to a Leon B then? I mean, because while there's less hassle, admittedly, it's still, I get the impression that there's not that many differences. You know, you come into the police station from a different angle, but all the puzzles are still largely the same. You still do all the same puzzles in the same areas. You know, it doesn't feel there's that many differences between like a Leon A and a Leon B.
Yeah, no, apart from the handgun, which was just mentioned there, you get, in B, you've got the different handgun, and it's like,
Which
well,
is
hey,
nice, I
you suddenly
guess.
realize there's no handgun rounds. There's no handgun rounds in the entire police station anymore for some reason.
No, it's suddenly all
Kinda forced the weapon
45s.
on.
Kevin's been busy.
Yeah, you gotta make them now, haven't you? You gotta make the other.
Yeah. If you want
handgun
to run
rounds.
handgun rounds for the Matilda or the whatever it is Claire runs with the SLS, yeah, you have to physically make the rounds, which I've got nothing against in a way, although it is a bit weird. I still can't get past how Leon holds that damn handgun. That just annoys me. I know it's a reference to the original game, but it was annoying in the original game, so it annoys me now today.
Should have got it on the PC. There's a mod that came out for it that gets rid of that animation.
Oh, really?
They have been playing with it, and now it shoots it like a normal gun.
Does he do
great.
pot shots as well?
No, I wish he did pot shots.
Ooh, terrible.
Oh, he's
mod.
no Kevin.
1 star.
No Kevin mod when, please. Someone get on.
Yes, now.
They needed to have him as a ghost survivor, Kevin.
I think they should have had it. Why have they not got Marvin as a ghost survivor? That's the question.
I know.
Why
haven't they got Harry?
Harry. Well, I mean, Harry should have had like a desk. Clearly, they had
Oh, I
Rita.
know.
They had Marvin.
Yeah.
They had David. Good old David. David did great in my series, and Wayne Lee as well, another hero of the series. But it feels like there's a few things, yeah, especially Marvin. Where is the love for Marvin? It's so cruel. What a man.
Oh, I know.
What a hero. What a legend. You know,
I
It's
love
a-
Marvin.
police
it's a-
officer of the month. Of
I
Marvin
know, he
Bramrock.
didn't even get a ghost survivor.
Sad.
I still think
Bloody
I still think he's gonna get it.
I hope.
Because like I Shadow probably knows this, but I've been doing like a lot of like modifications to my game and stuff. And one thing I noticed is that if you play as Marvin, you have unique sound effects and stuff.
Oh,
You get,
really?
like grabbed and bit and all that stuff. But if you like swap your characters, say like Chief Irons, your character's completely mute. Like if you get grabbed, no noises, no nothing. So I'm like, they've added those sounds for a reason. So I'm thinking it may be either unused files or a potential like
They might
hey,
still do
Marvin's
something
gonna
later
have his
on.
own thing in the future.
Oh, everyone would be so excited they did that. I think they should.
Yeah, it's
Everyone loves Marvin.
Marvin's great. I mean, it's not. I'm not going to criticize any of the 4 Ghost Survivors brought because I think they're all nice to have. You know, your Catherine, Kendo obviously is great. Yes, not F. We're not pressing F in chat. We're pressing M in chat. Of course we are.
Yes.
God damn it. Sod it. Fine. I'll do it too. There we go.
Come on, Pete.
What does it mean? I
Hey!
don't understand.
You idiot.
Oh, for Harry.
But yeah, that sort of things. And then you've got obviously Ghost, one of the USS soldiers, I think is a nice touch. And then I think it was really cool how they threw in No Way Out, which they didn't tell anyone about. And they still aren't telling anyone about in any of the official media with Daniel from the very start of the game. I thought that was a really nice touch. But no Marvin. I mean, it's just, how can I respect the game? There's no Marvin, but never mind.
Well,
what
about
did
Harry?
you guys...
He wasn't even in the game. Harry, guys.
Oh, I know.
Rip. All
He's too
of
busy
Oh,
rolling up the street.
He was out in the streets when he died, so.
Yeah.
Well, shoot, well, I don't know. You might still be
When he
trying to lock that
died.
bridge. Who knows? All right,
I
Ed,
don't know.
So
What about Mr. X?
Tyrant.
Oh, that's a big
Yeah,
one.
I think the Tyrant
I know,
certainly
yeah.
deserves some discussion while we're here. I think his impression, generally, changes once you've played the game a bit. Is a lot different to when you first see him. I think there's a
Oh,
huge
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, as like you know, and that Pete and some people, I don't like things chasing me. Hence, why I've only played Resident Evil 3 once because I didn't like how Nemesis chased me and all that. I felt I couldn't enjoy the game because I had him always on my back. And when I found out that was the same with Mr. X in this game, I was like, oh, why? And like the first run, I was a bit annoyed because sometimes he'd camp you, wouldn't he, outside the safe room. And when I'd done my B scenario, I just found it funny because I was just like playing around with him, having games, and just I didn't find him scary. I don't know what you guys thought about him, but
I think, as I mentioned, I think when you first run across him and and he pushes the helicopter away and he's just there and you're like, holy shit, and because you don't expect it, it's sort of out of nowhere. It's a cool way of doing it, but I think once you sort of actually start playing the game with him involved, and you see what his mechanics are like, I think a lot of that mystique and aura kind of gets a bit destroyed. We'll get to the hat in a second, Blitz, don't worry. But I think it gets a bit destroyed once you see how his mechanics work and the fact that you can chase you and you go into a save room and he just stops. He doesn't follow you. And it's like, I showed it off as well. Yeah, I think the worst one was like in the main hallway. If you go down the stairs to the underground office, there's no reason for him to not follow you. He just stops and just walks away. And it's a shame because I think it's a really cool thing. I think the choice with something we're going to talk about in a moment, how you can hear those heavy footsteps and you hear it around the building.
Oh,
I think that's
that
a really
creeped me
cool.
out.
I think that's a really cool addition. I think that was really nice and it played well with their choice of the overall music and aura, which we'll get to in a second. But
yeah,
and fighting him was tricky because his coat's seemingly bulletproof. I don't know how the fuck that works, but apparently it does. But yeah, once you start playing the game and you sort of see how it works, and he's not actually that hard to dodge, and there's a lot of things about him, like the safe rooms, he'll just stop chasing you. I think it ruins him a little bit, which is a bit of a shame, personally speaking. I could be a bit harsh there. Of course, we do have to discuss the hat. I think it's only fair we bring up the hat here, which was an interesting choice at the best of times.
Oh, that hat got shot off straight away as soon as I saw it. I was like, that's coming off your head. I can't take him seriously with that. What do you think, Pete? That Mr. X?
Yeah, I don't know why they put that hat in the game. It was no need, really. I guess they were trying to humanize him somehow, but it doesn't really, does it? It just does the opposite of anything.
Cormag, your best friend wears a hat, so what can you compare between Harry and Mr. X? There's an interesting comparison.
I mean, they're both slow.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I can't dispute that.
Yeah, they're both slow.
I can't dispute
Well,
that.
I don't know. It's like sometimes like Mr. X can seem like he's speeding up a bit because I not long watched the part of like my brother's video and he said, oh, he's got his speed boots on again. And I just found that funny because sometimes he does like speed up, don't he?
He does. He has phases where he will walk fast, especially like if you attack him while he's chasing you, he will tend to speed up a bit, which is cool. I got nothing against that. And again, I just think the sounds of it is all, but the hat was an interesting choice. I don't think anyone could look past him once we first saw that first promotional footage, and he see the hat, and it's just like, what? And there's obviously there are various mods going about Mr. X. I'm sure some involve him having many hats, no clothes at the moment. That's the one going around.
Yeah, there is one.
That's my favorite.
Dear God.
You showed me that picture, Pete. The one with him in, was it in the thong with
the umbrella? An umbrella thong, everyone. I will not put a picture up on the stream because I do not want this taken down. But
hey, I've got a pair of those.
If you have a morbid curiosity, then go look it up. It's on the Discord server as well. It's a thing. The internet scares me, everyone. It really scares me.
Funny. It was fun.
All right.
Oh, that's my favorite one. Definitely get a pair of those.
I feel sorry for you, Jen. I feel sorry.
Oh no.
I really liked Mr. X at first, guys. When I first saw it, I thought it was great. Mechanic, even though you're power walking and all that. But after a while, it kind of gets a little bit tedious, doesn't it? It's just-
Yeah, I found it a bit. Yeah.
The problem I had with him when I started doing my knife run through, I was going around, crawling about, cutting zombies up with my knife, and he's still hearing me every single place I go.
I had
mean-
that issue.
Yeah, how has he got super sensitive hearing that he can even, hear your footsteps from the other side of the building? I thought, come on, like, if I'm running, if I'm going through a door fast, if I'm shooting my gun or getting attacked by enemy, fair game, you come and find me. But the fact that he can still find me and I'm like walking around with a knife, I thought, what the shit?
It's
They
like he's got
just
his
programmed
senses.
him
Because
to
I had an
get
issue.
you, haven't they?
I had an issue where I was on the east side. I think it was that stairway Leon and Claire meet for the first
The
time,
escape, yeah.
and I ran all the way through the precinct into the west area. What was it, the library and all that? So I could do the bookcases. And I was doing the bookcase, and all I heard was his footsteps, like boom, 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 and then suddenly he was there. And I was like, how the hell did he know I was in the library? All the way
I
from
can
like
shed
the
some-
furthest point.
I know there's been
I
some.
could
Yeah, I was gonna
shed
say-
some light on this.
Yeah, please do, because I know it's
Oh,
been a
please,
topic
yeah.
of discussion on the internet.
So there are certain parts of the game that whenever you're getting a key item, for example, when you get the jack from the records room, Mr. X is scripted to chase you. So he will always be on your tail. No matter if you're walking, no matter if you're sprinting, or no matter if you've like shot him in the head and knocked him down, he will always be on your tail at that point.
So there's
And
no
he kinda just
hiding from
he
him
just
then?
stays with you. Not really, no. You just kind of have to like sort of deal with him.
Yeah, the best you've
Yeah,
got.
Yeah, it's
I
a
don't
shame
know.
they didn't
Go on.
bring stealth into it, though. Wouldn't it be good if they had like a stealth element to Mr. X?
Look, like an outbreak can hide in the lockers.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, there is on occasion. There was an incident in my series where I was in the safety deposit room, and I had to bolt in there because there was a liquor or something, and there was a zombie in there I'd left in. So I shot him and killed him. Realized the Titan was going to hear it, so I hid around the other side, and he literally came in and stood there for a moment and then walked off. So if it's not a scripted thing, it can happen. But I think because obviously the nature of the police station, the occasion that happens are going to be very few and far between. But it can happen. I can attest to that. I have video footage of it happening. So, but I think there are some that are scripted for him to know where the fuck you are and just chase you down until you get to a point where he can't chase you. It kind of goes from there.
Did you prefer how he was in the original, where he was a B scenario exclusive, and where there was points, obviously, where like, because he didn't even get a cutscene, did he? Like he did in the original, like showing you get dropped down by a capsule.
No,
like,
he just suddenly appeared
I know, I
and just
found-
moved the thing out of it. It's a difficult one because again, you think back to 1998. I think the shock value was a thing. You played through the game on the A scenario, and that was all well and good, and you play it, and then you go and play the B game, and then you're starting in the station. Everything looks kind of roughly the same. Like, oh yeah, okay, I remember this bit. And you're making your way back through the rooftop, and then suddenly something comes down off the helicopter, and it's the Tyro.
Yeah.
And in 1998, you'd never seen it before. You look at it and you think, holy shit, what is this? Now, it's a little bit more difficult in 2019, where we've got A, 20 years of hindsight, and B, he was plastered all over the promotional footage. So that shock value of him suddenly
I
appearing in
know,
the game
yeah.
never exists. You know, it's like the plot.
Yeah, I knew exactly where he was going to come. 'cause
Yeah,
I
exactly.
watched the bloody
And again,
trailers,
this is as I talked about, a bit of a curse with remakes in that I think there's doing a remake of an old game forces you to have some distinct limits in the storytelling you can do, in the impact and shock value that you can do as well. It inhibits it because you're ultimately telling a story that's been out for like 20 odd years. So
Mr. X going to give it to you.
yes, X is going to give it. Yeah, he's going to give it to you in an umbrella
everyone's-
thong, everyone, and a hat.
Everyone's had their stories with Mr. X. Like that's why there's so many memes going around, and like he's not as scary as what he was in the original. I don't think he's as scary as what he was in the original because
No, but then-
he's always on your case and you get used to him. He's like your little friend. Like
Yeah.
he's following you around.
Although to be fair, in the past 20 years, there's been some pretty horrific stuff that has been seen in video games. And
Yeah.
I think we've all kind of, things are less. The shock value of things are a lot less than what they would have been in 1980. If you've shown some of the stuff in 1980 of things like this year or last year in videos, like if you showed them like some things like a Dead Space in 1998, you'd probably get banned for that. Whereas in nowadays, it's like, yeah, it's gruesome, but that's just one of those things. So, and admittedly, yeah, like I say with Rhett, I didn't know where he was going to appear. I should have guessed he was going to appear at the helicopter wreckage. But I didn't. And I was like, once it happened, I was like, yeah, it makes sense to him appear there. But it's like, if, say, he was a second run exclusive, as in the same as the first run, I just don't think he can have the same impact because everyone already knows he exists. They know he's going to be in the game. Whereas in RE2, you'd never find any promotional material about the Tyrant. He was a hidden secret. You play the B game, and then this mini boss chases you throughout the station. You're like, what the fuck do I do? And it can't have the same impact. It's not possible.
Yeah.
But
I think. What do we overall think? Do we think Mr. X has done well then, or pretty well, right?
I found him annoying
overall.
at first. Yeah, I found him annoying at first, like because I don't like things chasing me and all that. And when I was trying to do like the book puzzle, and I had to move each of the bookcases one by one whilst running around the whole library from Mr. X because
that's
could
what
not
I
lose
thought.
him.
It turned out you can move them all in one, which I was reliably informed about.
I
after
was
the
doing
fact.
them one by one.
Don't worry, I was the same, Jen. My brother told me you could move them all at once. I was like, are you serious?
So I was there for about like 30 minutes doing that puzzle because Mr. X just would not leave me alone. I found that a bit annoying, like trying to do things and got Mr. X on your case, but I didn't find it too bad. I think once you get used to him and like what he does and stuff, I don't think he's that bad.
Yeah, I think they did about as well as they could have done with it. I think the only change, if I was playing it, the only thing I would have changed is that I think if he's pursuing you and actively pursuing you, perhaps he has an ability to follow you into a save room because they have this the functionality of like if an enemy's next to you, next to a typewriter, you can't save the game. But outside of the main hall, when there's zombies in there and the Tyrant, that doesn't feature anywhere else in the whole game because enemies never follow you into save rooms. So they have the functionality there, and I just think it's just so immersion breaking. Just walk into a save room and he just stops following you for no reason. It doesn't make any sense. So I think it's the only change I would have perhaps made. Perhaps made that like a hardcore exclusive thing, whereas on standard he drops it, but on hardcore he can follow you into save rooms. I think that would have been pretty.
Or maybe there was like a board up feature, or maybe like a lock feature or something,
or anything. They had something.
You had to lock it.
They could have been more creative, I guess. But
No, because I had some fun with Mr. X with that safe room, the one with the dark room, like just playing like peekaboo with him in the safe room because he could not come in that safe room, and he just I was just like poking my head out, and he was just walking up, and it was just funny because like one time he just sort of like slanted looking at me as the door shut, as if like I can't come in there, and he looked so disappointed. It was just.
He did that to me, and then he punched me.
Oh dear.
Oh, he nearly got me. Yeah.
Oh dear. I think he's just trying to cut some corners there and paid for it. I know I paid for it once or twice in the series. I tried to do crazy shit and I paid for it for that. That was bad.
Do you reckon he was overused in the second playthrough?
It depends who you're playing in your second playthrough. So it is.
Oh, does it? Yeah, it does.
Well, I don't know. I could go in detail, but like, people out there haven't played both first and second runs of each character.
But I still think, well, I mean, it's just, I think it comes out again that he can only have so much impact. And once, especially when he featured in the A game, and then you see him in the B game, it's like there's you've already seen it. You've had that moment of him appearing, and he appears at the same place. You're just like, nah, right, I got to deal with this again. And that's not really a great impression to have. It's not what you aim for, I don't think.
It hasn't got the same moment as the B side in, obviously, the original.
No.
It'll never have that.
No, certainly not. But then I suppose you could argue in 1998 is that there also wasn't the ability people to play the B game and then post everywhere saying, hey guys, this thing appears in the B game. Because again, that didn't exist. Social media was a totally different beast now than it is anything compared to back then. So, that's one of those things. I think they did all right. One
Yeah.
thing that
Yeah.
I must bring up as well, which is the other big source of contention that I've noted, is regarding the game's music choices. Now, this
There's
is obviously
music in the game.
yes. This exactly. This
All right,
may-
who wants to go first?
well, I was going to outline this. Obviously, there's a huge
Yeah.
difference, which I already noted anyways about the Capcom's choice of their approach on the music of the main game. And I think this is only further accentuated when you've done stuff like the Hunk and Tofu, and especially the Ghost Survivors. I think they've got really good soundtracks personally, and they wrote really well the game, conveying sort of the atmosphere of the area. And then you go back to the main game, and then this whole choice of very, very minimalistic, only a bit of music here and there as and when the game deems it necessary. And it's a tough choice because it's like if it had been like Silent Hill 20 years ago, you'd totally understand. But in 2019, it seemed an interesting choice to go with to go very, very minimalist. I mean, so beyond minimalist again. Some people probably question what
I
music.
didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, there was no music, was there? for
No,
some
I
of the
didn't like.
bits?
I mean, some of the soundtrack in the remake was good. There were some like cool ones, but just there, like some place there was just like nothing, no ambient sounds or anything. That's why on like my B playthrough, I straight away put the original soundtrack on. I think I will keep using the original soundtrack 'cause it's just nostalgia, really, isn't it?
There is a bit of nostalgia. Obviously, that's something I've
Yeah.
not done yet. Whenever I go back to the game a little bit in the future, and I will play through Leon A, Claire B, the plan is to run the game on the original OST and kind of compare the differences. But I think, I commented this a lot in a Thoughts video previously, it's another brave choice from Capcom to take the approach that they did. I think that as people commenting on, it has a much more realistic feel to the game. Whereas obviously the Ghost Survivors is a bit more arcadey, I guess, because it's a lot more actiony. But it was an attempt to make the game feel very realistic. And I think because I played through the game very methodically and quite cautiously, and that allowed every chance for the ambience to kind of have its impression on
Yeah,
me.
same, yeah.
So if there were little sounds in the distance, you could sort of hear them as I hit the mic there accidentally. Ambient sounds, everyone.
Nice.
But obviously, if you're just blazing through the police station, it's not gonna be the same thing.
Yeah, I liked it. I did like the like how the remake soundtrack was very like ambient, like atmospheric. I did like that, but like when I put the original soundtrack on, I was like, oh, there it is. And when it popped in like certain bits, yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and again, I know a lot of people. I've found myself defending it a little bit at times. I don't think it was a terrible choice, but especially again, Capcom have been doing this sort of ambient sounds to games for 25 years, sort of thing. And Resident Evil is one of the best examples of that. Of these various areas where there is not necessarily massive overarching sounds, but even like take Resident Evil Revelations. I think it's a good example. There's a lot of areas where there's just that little quiet little sound playing in the background, just conveying that little bit of extra atmosphere and everything. And then this is obviously very stark and different. Now, I don't know, say, with Resident Evil 7, if they took a similar approach in that. I haven't played it. I don't know if any of you guys have played 7.
No,
Yeah, I've played
I
it.
haven't.
Yeah.
Oh, you have, Pete? Oh, Pete. Oh, good.
Yeah,
he's done a let's
can't
play
really
on it, yeah.
remember. I can't really remember the soundtrack on it, but I felt, I didn't mind the soundtrack on the remake overall. The Mr. X tune is a bit of a tune. I like that. I prefer it to the original. The Hank music, that arcadey feel.
Yeah, I think.
Oh, I loved Hunk's sound.
That's great,
Hunk,
isn't it?
Tofu, and all the Ghost Files. I think they did a fantastic job on all of them. I think they were
It
all
really
fantastic.
gets you into the game, doesn't it? I mean, once you can't really switch to original on those. I wouldn't have thought. Well, you could, but you're not going to have the same effect. You've got to have the remake tune on those to get into it more. But yeah, aside from the Mr. X theme, I suppose there was a couple of good boss soundtracks, wasn't it? And the ending soundtrack at the end is pretty good.
Yeah,
Where
actually,
you're
that's a fair. Yeah, when the self-destruct sequence is going again, and you're going through the nest. I think actually that was pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. Oh,
Yeah.
Cormag, that's controversial.
Oh no.
Not so sure. I'm happy
I don't
about
know.
that statement.
That
Oh, right.
I know. That's gonna start
Old
something.
school.
I
But
know.
no,
I can't either blade. Yeah.
No, I think they did a decent job, but again, it just shows you that it makes the choice of being so quiet and so ambient in the main game so stark a difference compared to the fact that they've previously done so well with tracks and overarching sounds previously, and they did so, I think, in the Ghost Survivors. I think it was all very, very solid, and really good stuff. So I think it was. I don't know. It's hard to defend it. It's tricky. I don't think it's a bad thing. It depends on your play style, I reckon. If you play for it very slowly and cautiously, like I did, and kind of exploring a lot, I think it can lend a lot to it. And it's more difficult for me, I guess, because I'm recording it, and then every half an hour I have to break the video, so it kind of interrupts my immersion a little bit. It's always getting a bit broken. Whereas if you're playing the game for like 2-3 hours straight, and you're taking that sort of slow, methodical approach, it might work really well. But I think a lot of people probably weren't doing that and were getting a bit gun heavy, and then it kind of breaks that immersion. And perhaps there was a bit too much of it. It was perhaps too, especially in the sewers. There's like almost nothing in the sewers. It's almost, there's almost no sound to it at all. Perhaps. So,
I felt the G.
It's just dead, isn't it? Yeah.
Was it the G monsters?
the
Quite
G
freaky.
adults. Oh god, I
Yeah.
Oh, new enemy.
It's
Not
you
a
know
fan.
that bit where you fight a lot of them in the sewers. I thought that was the nest. I didn't realise at the time that they referred the nest as the laboratory. I thought, because I kept asking you, P, I said, "Oh, is this the nest?" Because like it looks like a breeding ground.
Well,
and
it
all
probably
that,
was.
for, like,
It
the
probably was
Gs.
a breeding ground, but it was.
But I always dread going in that area because I found that area a bit freaky.
Yeah, I think it's.
I dreaded that bit.
It's not a fun place to be, especially because the equipment that you need to kind of deal with them is on the other side. You can only use it on the way back, but getting through there the first time, horrible place. Not a fan.
It is.
Lot of
It
pain.
made me jump so many times because when like I went through it the first time, done what I need to do in that room that you need to get to, and on the way back, I was near the end, when you go up the ladder, and I was like, right, I'm out of it. And then one jumped right in front of my face. My controller nearly went flying. It made me jump that much.
All I know is I think I got
Nice.
pretty lucky when I first went through there because that was just. It's horrible. You can see it in the water, and you just think, oh, there's so much shit coming this way. It's just gonna be bad. And
Don't,
it
don't
was.
they like sing like a lullaby as well before you get?
I don't
to
know
them,
what
and then-
sound it is. Is it a lullaby?
Like-
Are they breaking wind? I couldn't really
They're
tell.
like a little tune or something, and you're like, "What's this coming up?" And
it's
they
just vile noises.
It's just a vile place. The sewers is not. It's generally not a place for humanity to be in, anyways. Let alone in a zombie apocalypse with a G virus going around or T virus going around. Bad place, everyone.
I agree with what Jay's saying. I don't know if you guys have played the Halo games, but that area that I was just talking about, like he said, it reminded him of like the flood in Halo. And I looking back now, I agree on that. That's why I think I liked it and thought it was a bit creepy as well.
Yeah. No, they're both pretty grotesque creations. I'll
Yeah.
admit that indeed. Most
I've got to
certainly.
admit they've done a good design on that. The
Yeah.
Gs, the G unit.
There's one answer to those, though, guys. The
What?
spark shot.
Well, this is
Oh,
what
I
I was
can't
told,
use.
but
Can we discuss the spark shot?
we do need. Actually, this is
Because-
a fair point. This needs to be brought up.
Can I just
It's
say one thing before we
awesome.
go? Can we just say one thing before I get into it? Is I could not use it for shit. Pete had to come in and he said, "Do you want me to show you how to use it?" And I was like, "Look, Pete," and I was physically showing him with the controller. I cannot use it. Like it was just doing these little puffs. It weren't doing anything, and
It's
I could
so
not get to grips
powerful.
with it. And you were getting frustrated, Pete, weren't you? Because it's like, Jen, it's a really good gun, and I just couldn't see it.
It's a gun that, Leon gets a flamethrower, Clay gets the spark shot, and oh my god, you want to use it against these G unit people? Oh, they won't have a chance.
I need to have some words with Capcom here because as good as the spark shot is, which is a decent weapon, and as good as the flamethrower is, which I think it's an amazing weapon against pretty much everything bar lickers, the spark shot, its description of how it's used is so misleading. It was so misleading I didn't use it in the game because I was worried I was going to break the damn thing and it would just break totally. Now, maybe that was my fault and how I'd read it, but I got the impression that if I used the wires, it would like send a shock to the enemy, and if it overcharged, it would break everything. That's the impression I got. I wasn't even too sure. I thought like it would randomly recharge over time. It was so confusing how they explained that. I swear that couldn't have just been me. Was it just me? Am I an idiot?
No, when I read, I was like, "Pardon?"
It didn't make sense, did it?
No, it didn't. It really was like you had to field test the weapon to get a feel for it properly.
Because think about like you had to hold the trigger, then hold the other trigger, like if you're playing on a controller, to like charge it up. But I was doing that, and it just kept doing these little mini poof shots.
Yeah, now that I've played the game, it's fine. You aim the gun, you fire whatever it is. Once you fire it, as long as you keep aiming the gun in anywhere in its general direction, it will keep sort of slowly shocking it until it charges up fully and then delivers one massive jolt to it, which, ends the shot and more or less totally screws the damn thing. But outside of that, but it was just so confused how they complained. I had to make mention of that in the video because I was so mistaken. And then I basically didn't use the spark shot at all in the main game, which was a shame. I basically didn't use it. I think outside of like a couple of places, I basically didn't use the spark shot because I didn't get how it worked, and I was worried I was going to break the damn thing. And then by the time I kind of realised, I didn't need it anymore.
So I'm not the only one then, because I felt like an idiot when Pete was trying to explain to me how to use it. I felt like an idiot.
It's pretty powerful against, because you can just stun them or like even rip their eye open and just go straight past them. So like in Kendo, there's a bit where they come out. You could just use the spark shot there, stun them, run past. I think that's what it was designed to use.
Well, I would have done that, except I killed the enemy with the spark shot, went through a different door to investigate, and then the door shut behind me. And that was it. I was fucked. So, unfortunately, I didn't get to try it until run 2 of that. But nonetheless, it is designed to totally screw over the Geodogs. 100% agree with that.
Yeah, maybe we should talk about the weapons at some point.
I think they deserve a mention. Yeah, while we're here, we got some time.
Well, while we're still in the discussion of spark shot, it may be good. Don't tell me I've cut out.
No, you're fine.
No.
So it's good against G-adults, but I think the MVP the spark shots for is Ivy zombies.
Surprisingly effective, yes. They can certainly, one overcharge to just instantly down them, which is pretty good. And it was something that I didn't know if it was going to work or make sense, but I'm surprisingly okay with both of those counts.
It one-shots Ivies as well, doesn't it? And Lickers. Actually, one-shots
I don't think it one-shot outright kills Ivies, but it will one-shot like down them so they don't have to recharge and regenerate before they can get it up again.
Right, yeah, I wasn't sure if they get back up. But
because with Ivy, if you don't have a flame weapon, you have to shoot the little orange spots on them, and once you've shot all of them, they then go down for a little bit. By doing the electric shock, it basically gets rid of all those orange spots in one go. It's still very effective, and I used it a few times in like speed runs and doing like with Kendo especially.
Right, is that what Blade just said? I misunderstood and thought you had to release the aim button when charge reaches maximum. Like, that's what I was doing. I was, like, holding both triggers. Like, you told me to do that, Pete, didn't you? And, it would charge up or whatever, but it kept releasing the shot. It weren't charging it, so I don't know what I was doing wrong.
Gotta hold it down, haven't you? Like,
that's what you kept telling me, but I just weren't getting it, so I thought, no, spark shot's going in the bin.
Oh God, one of the most.
I mean, I basically didn't use it either, and that was that was a blind hardcore run, so that was pretty rough.
To be fair, I didn't really use it in the original either too much. The spark shot.
It was a fun weapon actually in the original. It was a tricky thing to use in the original, but it was very powerful against Birkin. It was a good weapon.
Yeah, that's the only time I used it was against Birkin.
So underpowered shotgun rep just mentioned.
Well, I think this isn't the only thing. I think this comes to a more overarching question. Does Leon's weaponry completely suck compared to Claire's?
It depends on if you're playing standard or hardcore.
Because
I can't really comment because I've already played standard.
Well, I think even if you've played one of each, I think because back in 1998, there was a wide interpretation. One I do believe that I think Claire's weaponry on the whole was perhaps weaker than Leon's, but more so for the reason that her weaponry was very unconventional compared to Leon. So if you understood how to make the best out of Claire's weaponry, it was fine. But obviously Leon's was
Yeah.
just point gun, shoot gun, do shitloads of damage. That obviously is now completely different. The grenade launcher works very differently. You've got the flamethrower, which is also... Wait, the flamethrower is Leon, sorry. You've got the grenade, which is really good. The SMG is a really, really good weapon. I think very, very effective. And then she does, get a minigun. That's kind of cool. But there is certainly, as I say, with the shotgun, I think the shotgun... It doesn't feel as powerful as it should do against certain enemies. So, like Lickers. Lickers just didn't give a damn whenever I shot them about the shotgun.
no.
They didn't care at all.
Yes.
Which is
it's
they
like
laugh.
6 shots, 5 shots, round about that.
And they don't
area.
even flinch. They just keep going. They're like, meh, whatever. Which
Yeah.
doesn't make sense.
Even his Magnum
Yeah.
is not that strong either. The Desert Eagle thing that you get.
Given
You're
that
shooting them with
given that you can knife
nothing.
Lickers and stun them reasonably well, it's bizarre.
Oh, I love the flamethrower for the IVs. Oh, when I was playing as Claire and I didn't have the flamethrower, I was like, oh, I've missed
I
it.
think for me, definitely Claire's weapons were much stronger, I think. I don't think even a little bit. The SMG is an incredible weapon, probably best weapon on the game. The grenade launcher one-shots or downs most enemies, Lickers,
The
IVs.
flame rounds are good. And the acid rounds, it gets
It downs them. But
yeah, the acid rounds
Yeah.
are good as well. Really effective against Mr. X, actually, the acid rounds. Very effective.
And yeah, their pistols are pretty much the same in there. I think Claire's is slightly stronger, but it reloads really slow.
I didn't
so-
like the one that fired from the hip.
It used to be the
Yeah.
Colt SAA. Now it's the whatever the hell it is called nowadays.
Yeah, I didn't like. Was it the army revolver? Something like some can probably.
can't remember.
Quick draw army.
Quick draw.
Yeah,
that's the
that's
one.
it,
Yeah, that's what
yeah.
it's called. The quick draw.
I didn't like how it fired from the hip. You kept telling me it was good, Pete, didn't you? But
Well, I mean,
Especially
that's,
with
that's
playing
also
controller.
referencing
Fantastic
1998 as
gun.
well, to be fair. And because the way the
maybe I'll
gun
get more of a
physically...
chance.
Yeah, because the way the gun physically is designed and physically works, to hip fire it is the only way you could accurately fire that gun very easily and quickly. Because that makes some logical sense in how they've designed it. Although it's certainly, I don't know if you've had a chance, but yeah, there is a tofu run which you can do, which has the M1911 and the Colt. And that's a tricky run because you've got the quick fire which you can use to down stuff, but then takes forever to load. So it's a tricky weapon to use, certainly. I don't think it was that bad. I mean, I haven't actually. That was the first one. I've not played it in the main campaign because, of course, I did Leon B, not Claire B. But
That's
still,
pretty good. I think. Would
anything
you
else
say that
weapon-wise?
maybe?
I think defense items. I think is worth a quick mention while we're here. The choice of how they work. I think very powerful.
What do you think
Yeah.
about the knife being breakable?
I like that. I really do. Coming from like Resident Evil 4 and 5, how knifing was a bit broken in those games. I like
Yeah.
that it's got a durability bar in
Made you be more careful, didn't it, when to like use it instead of like spamming the knife? Like, I know you can get an infinite knife. Is it like you have to kill the raccoons to get that?
Yeah, all the
think-
Mr. Raccoon.
Yeah.
stuff.
I think I would have preferred to have an unbreakable knife, but not used as a sub weapon, just used as it was in like Resident Evil 4, 5. You could just use it any time, but you can't actually defend yourself with it when like a zombie grabs you. I know it wouldn't have made much sense, but yeah, I would have preferred if it was unbreakable. I would have. The sub weapons are OP though, and they're probably some of the strongest equipment you can have on the game. The grenades,
I think that's probably true.
so
yeah.
powerful against bosses.
That is-
Flashes, you can flash a whole room and just run through it
Yeah.
with there's loads of
Oh,
zombies.
it's very apparent how
incredible.
powerful the knives is. When you do the initial tofu run and you've got 16 knives, they're only all half durability, but it just shows you how powerful it's just to get grabbed, defend yourself, stab an enemy away, and just keep going and just not take damage. It's pretty crazy. I mean, the knifing's not too bad. I'm aware that the way the knifing works is slightly broken, as Cormag has reliably informed me about. It works in like frames or something, doesn't it?
Oh,
Yeah, I
I've heard
think,
about that.
um,
Yeah.
For every
there's a glitch, isn't it?
It's it basically the weapon does damage based on your frame rate. It's like for every like second that the knife swing is in the hitbox of an enemy, it'll do like whatever damage the knife does. Let's just say 40 damage for the sake of a number. And if you've got 120 FPS, you're doing double damage with the knife every time you swing at an enemy. and it breaks the game. Something shocking.
I think they need to fix that because it's a bit unfair for us people that use 60 frame monitors and people that use 144 hertz monitors.
Well, I suppose possibly, but apparently this is in Resident Evil 7 as well. I've been told. Apparently that they runs on the same system, which is interesting. That's what I've heard. It's also the same in Resident Evil 7. So. Hello, Hungo. Hello, welcome.
Hello, Hungo.
What is that?
People with only 60 frames at such a disadvantage now. Then.
Oh, it's a relief.
People on PlayStation will be at even less, right? Is it like 40 frames?
Potentially. Depends what you're running with.
30. Yeah.
Code Veronica's
that,
knife. It's a good question. I don't think Code Veronica's knife worked the same. I think it's just that the Code Veronica knife had the ability to hit multiple times. I don't know. Maybe it is quite similar actually.
It is and it isn't, because the knife is hitting multiple times in Resident Evil 2. But say when you swing a knife, it hits like the enemy 3 times with the swing. With 120 frame rate, you'd be hitting it 6 times with the same swing.
Oh, God.
So you really are just doubling your damage.
Well,
that's broken then, really, isn't it? I think
potentially, it's open to being abused a bit. Yeah, certainly. Whereas obviously in Code Veronica, you can't fiddle around with the frame. I don't think you can fiddle around the frame rate to affect how many times something gets hit by a knife. I suppose I'll find out when I do the knife run of that game, probably some point this year. I can imagine it's not far away. I will probably hate it. Much as I love the game, I'm not looking forward to knife running that game. It's going to be brutal.
Probably won't be the hardest one you've done, I don't think.
I don't know. I don't see an easy boss fight in Code Veronica Knife Run. I don't see an easy boss fight
Code Veronica,
at all.
sorry.
Yeah.
I thought you meant
Remake. No, Remake wouldn't be too bad. No, Code Veronica boss fight. Ugh. I don't even want to think about that right now. It's just scary. Just scary stuff. But yeah, so yeah, no. Regardless though, all the side and defense weapons, pretty good. I don't know. Maybe it could be a situation, Rep, there are obviously you do knife runs of games, and there's certain bosses you have to fight with something other than a knife, and the game forces you to do that. I don't know if you can knife that. I think you still have to use the linear launcher against that. I don't know. I'll have to inspect that later on. I'll find out whenever I get to deal into that. We'll see how that goes. All right then.
I liked Claire's SMG though. Just to quickly point out.
Yeah, no, it's a very, very strong weapon. I wish I'd used it better, but it was a pretty good gun. And then obviously there's the variant for like Hunk and Ghost with the LE5, or it's just an MP5. Come on, guys. Fucking... It always
LE5? What?
Yeah, they call it the LE5.
It's such a good weapon.
It's a good weapon, but it's obviously an MP5. I don't know why they see the need to call things slightly different. I guess it's copyright or something, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's very strange. All right then. So I suppose to look towards wrap this up. I suppose the question that should be asked is what is next then for Resident Evil? We've obviously had the remake, which has done incredibly well. So obviously a lot of people are considering the thought of perhaps remaking Resident Evil 3, which I think's had a bit of a mixed reception from what I've heard. Some people like the idea of it, some people not so keen. Much like with Resident Evil 2, ironically, it kind of feels like the same argument. Is that something that perhaps they should consider doing?
I think so, because it's the last game with really bad, like, outdated graphics. And if they remake 3, then... Because I don't think Code Veronica needs a remake, to be honest. And I know a lot of people are asking for them to remake the Outbreak as well, but...
Please, Capcom.
I think they need to leave that alone. It's got... Well, you'd want a remake on that?
I think there's...
Outbreak.
Well, I always think there should be something along the idea. Maybe not like Outbreak as it is now, but I just think it was such a shame with Outbreak when it came out. It was before its time. There is no question. I always say if Outbreak had come out like that, but say a few years ago, say like on the original Xbox with like the real birthplace of proper wide internet, I think it would have been an amazing game. I still enjoy it.
They've done that really good.
Yeah, exactly. And
it didn't sell very well, did it? That
was the problem.
It went under the radar. The only reason I found out about it is because I used to buy the PlayStation 2 magazines back in the day, and I was scrolling through the page. I saw Resident Evil Outbreak File 1. I was like, oh, what's this game then? And I looked at the reviews, read the reviews, and I thought, oh, this looks like my type of game. So I brought it. I played it and I loved it. And then how I found out about File 2 is the same thing. Saw it advertised in the magazine. So, yeah, it did fly under the radar a bit, the Outbreak games, which was a shame because they're really good, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, well, I've covered it extensively on the channel. I will continue to play more of it because it's always been great.
Jay,
You know,
the same.
yeah, I don't actually.
I think I showed you, Jay.
I think I just found it. I think I was in. Goodness me, where did I come across it? I don't think I saw it in any promotional material. I think I just went into probably Game Station or something, which are dead, or maybe Electronics Boutique, which are dead, or some other retailer, Blockbuster maybe, which is dead.
Everything, yeah, dead.
Yeah, all dead. There is a theme here. And I think I just walked into it and saw, Resident Evil, PS2. And I looked at the back and thought, multiple characters. What a great idea. Bought it, and I was forever lost on that train. 100%. But I think it's difficult, because the game itself obviously didn't sell too well. And I think it's unrealistic to expect. Like I said, I always talk about a file free. That's what they say, file free. That's the one, to have an incorporation of 1 and 2.
Maybe that's what they should do if they're going to do an Outbreak series, rather than try and recreate it or upgrade the graphics. Maybe they should just go file free and just make it completely different, based around a different game. And just go for it,
I think what
new experience.
Well, I think if what would be and you think perhaps the mechanics of it, you think of a decent engine that could be used for File 3. Look at what we're playing on. Look at Remake. I think it's a fantastic engine. The controls are super tight. I think it plays really, really well. And even incorporation of some kind of multiplayer aspect into a game like that, I think would be amazing. It may not be proper File 3, I guess. And I've always said that if they were going to do that, maybe what they would do is a stage or 2 from the first file, stage 2 from the second, a couple of original files, put those into the game, and then just have 5 or 6 of them. If the game sells well and does really good, then they can add some DLC of some of the older stages, some original stages. If it doesn't do great, they're not so committed to delve into it. It's a douche. Kevin's not a douche. That's a rough statement to make.
That's my character, Brad.
Kevin's great. Kevin's great.
So Remake 3 is probably the most likely, though, isn't it?
I think
I'm
so.
hoping, yeah. I mean, if they're like, oh no, we're doing Resident Evil 8, I'm not going to be so hyped because when I know a lot of people did like Resident Evil 7, but for me, first-person Resident Evil doesn't sit too well. I've watched playthroughs, I watched yours, Pete, and it did look like a good game, but I personally wouldn't play it myself because to me it looked like its own reboot of Resident Evil. It should have just been like Resident Evil. I don't know if it should have been called 7. I don't know, but just first person Resident Evil, I couldn't do it. That's why Resident Evil 8, if they're going to do it first person, no, not too keen.
Yeah, I would prefer Remake of 3, I think, to
I would.
Resident Evil 8 at this stage. As long as I hope they could do Nemesis right, because if they don't...
That's what I'm excited about,
right, the game will kind of flop, won't it? He has to be better than what Mr. X was.
I think 100%,
take some of his mechanics.
100%. There's some I think there's some glaring things that aren't quite right with Mr. X, and I'm sure they would see that and address it. They know that if they do Resident Evil 3 Remake, there's a couple of things they need to centerpiece. One is, again, the city and actually going through the city, which is something you don't really get to do in Resident Evil 2.
Nothing.
And as I did have one thing I did complain about is that in the second round, I still think there should be some kind of alternate going through the streets to the police station rather than just magically turning up there. So
I know, that was a bit.
And the zombies don't even try and grab you. They're like, oh,
it's very it's a bit scripted. But I think there's if they do Resident Evil 3, there's 3 things they need to make sure they get right. One, I think, is the city because it should be looking pretty diverse and should be pretty awesome. 2 is Jill because it's the internet. That's all I'm going to say. And third is Nemesis, 100%. He is the big centerpiece of a Resident Evil 3 remake.
They need to get him right,
And
they need to get the ballistas right, yeah.
Yeah, well,
oh, no.
Whose? Nemesis's? Moving on.
No, Jill's.
Oh, right,
but
okay.
No, yeah, Nemesis too. You need to get his ballistas right too.
That's right. We'll wait for the thong mod for him as well. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, no, I think... I would appreciate. I think even if you took the current engine they've got now and did Resident Evil 3 base large on that, there's no reason that it can't be that bad. I think it'd be really good. I think they could do a great job with it. And I think they could use Resident Evil 2. There's a couple of things that didn't quite sit too well, and use that to kind of finalize and what's the word I'm looking for here? Sort of meet out the details, if you will, for Resident Evil 3. And I think it'd be a fantastic title to play through. I'd enjoy it. It'd be a lot of fun. And if they decide to do it the next couple of years, I'm sure I'll be covering that on the channel as and when it comes out too. Hopefully with my millions of Twitch followers at that point, just raking in the money. I literally just turn on the camera. It's like £100 an hour sort of thing. I'm just like, yeah, this is the life. Good times.
But with the Resident Evil remake, if they done it, do you think they should do like what they did with the Resident Evil HD remake, where they added bits? Because Resident Evil 3, the original, is a short game compared to 2 and the first game. Like,
this is true.
Do you think they should like add bits in like they did with the HD remake?
I think so. I think there should be. There's so much scope to do it. As they saw with Resident Evil 2 remake, I think there's so much scope to add stuff in, little details here and there, like having like a couple of officers that are around, and obviously you take Resident Evil 3, you look at the game as a whole, there's a lot of things that you could expand on, especially the whole UBCS team. Obviously you've got like Carlos, who you play as for a bit, but you've got like obviously Nikolai, you've got Mikhail as well. You can try and delve into that little side for things a bit more. There's going to be other things they can try and incorporate in somewhere or another, 100%. And I don't see Carlos as well. Man, Rep, he's not a fan of some of these characters. Carlos wasn't that bad. He was just
I get all the foxy ladies. I can't remember actually.
But no, I think if they do a remake of Resident Evil 3, I think they do need to expand it a little bit and make some like bits better. I think that's why I only played it once as well, because it was like a short game and because of the Nemesis as well, which I think I'd be fine now, because back when I played Resident Evil 3, I was only like a kid, so I think I'd be all right now because I'm used to Mr. X chasing me, so. I think I'd be all right with.
I think as a game. I mean, the gameplay of Resident Evil 3, I think is superior to Resident Evil 2, 100%. But it is lacking a bit sometimes in its, outside of Nemesis, it is a bit lacking at times. There are little codes. Like I say, I always praise like Mikhail, for being as brave and awesome as he is, and just like a total legend. Things like that. They can just try and find ways to expand on somehow. Maybe even like. They can even do, just thinking wildly here, like they have like some kind of communications, like walkie-talkies, whatever else, and Jill's like communicating with Carlos or something like that in the train, and then they're in the middle of conversation, they hear like a load of banging, and then suddenly the train's being attacked by a horde of zombies or whatever, and then suddenly you're taking the part of the Umbrella team defending themselves, just some kind of transition like that. There's always ways to work this in. These guys aren't idiots. The people that develop these games, they're not stupid. There's always ways to do it. It's sometimes,
I think they'll expand it. Yeah.
I think they need to, certainly.
Yeah.
And I think, yes, Mercenaries as well. That'd be lovely to see that get a 2019, 2020 remake. Mercenaries was fantastic mode, of course. Really
especially Resident Evil 5. It was really good in that.
Indeed.
What about the foxy ladies, guys? Loving the accent.
Ladies. Oh god, I hope they get a better voice actor.
Carlos
he tried to
some
put on
here.
a fake accent, didn't he? Yeah.
I don't know what the accent was. Was it? I don't know. Maybe they just need to get. They just need to get the dude who did him in the films, and you'll be fine. Get him to do the face. Just get him just to play Carlos.
Just get him to do it.
What was his name?
The ladies do love him. Yeah.
I can't think of his name. Everyone knows who I'm talking about, right? But you can't.
Yeah.
Can't think of his
haven't
name.
seen the films.
Chat will help me out here in a few moments, I'm sure. But especially
you know
nowadays,
who he is,
being that it's all like based on like motion recognition, that sort of thing. Yeah, get him in to play it. I think that'd be fantastic.
Oh,
the pretty boy.
The pretty boy.
Yeah, he
Come on, Jen.
was he in Resident Evil 2? Oh,
Three,
what's his
was it?
name?
Or four? I don't know.
It was in the second film. He's played Carlos. I just know if it is. I know he's Israeli. I think he was. Yes, he was in The Mummy as well. That he was also in that.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's
Mummies
plenty
do
of
love him too.
Yeah, but yeah, there's certainly plenty of ways. Although, so I think there's plenty of scope for it. I'm looking forward to it, and hope they do decide to do that. And if they can do anything, I think Resident Evil 3 they've done reasonably like Resident Evil 2. I think
Oh, that's him. Odid
Fair, I think it is something like
Yeah,
that.
Fair,
Odid
yeah,
Fair, that's
yeah.
the one. I just need to hit. I thought it was like Omar. Like it's not Omar. But yeah, I think ultimately, if they do anything Resident Evil much like they've done with Resident Evil 2 Remake, I think ultimately there's always be some people that think it should be a bit more related to the original. And this is, I think, if you want these games to be much more faithful to the original, then that's just that's the opinion. There's nothing wrong with that. But I don't think it's likely going to happen because again, the game's 20 years old and gaming nowadays has changed so much compared to 1998 that it's hard to play those old ones and have them be widespread popular. It just doesn't relate too well modern day.
It wouldn't work, no.
And there was another point I was going to make, and it's totally escaped my mind, which is really bad. Yeah, it needs a modern touch. It needs something extra to them to kind of bring them to the modern day. And I just don't think gameplay of the old ones stands up too well to 1998 stands up in 2019. Everything's so quick and fast-paced and all that sort of stuff. There has to be something more to it to really try and grab a wider audience. Because ultimately, if you only cater to just the hardcores of a series, like Resident Evil, it's just not going to be profitable. It's just not going to sell.
It won't sell for them, will it?
No, it's just not going to work.
That's the
It
thing.
doesn't make business sense to do it. So that's the nature of it. Anyways, I think that's going to be probably where we bring this towards an end. Unless there's anything else you guys want to throw in that we should mention about.
We probably should rate it out of 10 at least, shouldn't we? Before we
I think that's a good way to end it. Yeah, rating out of 10.
end off. Yeah.
Well, you brought the question up.
Yeah,
Oh,
you go
me
first.
first, isn't
Yes,
it?
you
Oh,
first.
okay then. So out of 10, yeah, I've given this quite a serious thought. At the start, I was more 8.7, but I sort of brought a little bit down because of the second playthrough and playing it more. Even though I've not stopped playing it, I've played it over 100 hours now
Jesus.
at this point. But I think I'll stick with the 8.5 now. After playing it so much, but I really enjoy it, and definitely could have been better, but solid overall. Definitely a good game.
Jen?
I mean, obviously, like Resident Evil 2 the original was a 10 out of 10 for me. It's one of my favourite games. But with the remake, I think I'd have to give it. I think the same as you, Pete, like an 8.5, an 8.5 out of 10.
We ranked the original as well? Maybe so we.
Well,
It's 10 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I mean, the original, it's a bit of an unfair thing to rank them side by side because I think ultimately they're such different games. I think it's a tough thing to do. And ultimately, there's going to be people that only that haven't played much Resident Evil. They'll look back to the old stuff and think it doesn't look that interesting. So I don't think it's a fair comparison to make because that would differ. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, so
I
an
understand.
8.5, I'd say. Yeah, same as Pete.
All right,
I'd
Cormag,
give it.
what about you, sir?
Well, for me, I'm going to give it a 9, only because I'm like squeezing every little thing I can out of the game. I'm doing like all the weekly challenges, 100% of the game. And the weekly challenges for me is what's bringing me back to keep replaying it because it's adding like a whole bunch of like little stipulations and runs. Like the one where I did last week where it was like no shotgun/grenade launcher, hardcore only. That made me rethink the playthrough I was doing. It was really interesting to tackle that and stuff. So I have a reason to always keep coming back to the game, which games of today don't do for me.
And I suppose as for myself, it's difficult because I think if I'd have done this, say, a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, I might have been erring somewhere around probably around. It seems harsh, but like a 7, 8, somewhere around that sort of region. Because I enjoyed the main game, but there was a few things that were just lacking and nagging away. And while it was very entertaining to play, I couldn't sit there and think that this is just absolutely like the bee's knees because it wasn't. There was a few little things here and there. But I think having now done a lot of the side stuff, which I think is all fantastic, all the hunk tofu, all the ghosts of other stuff, I think is all totally fantastic. I think it's easily at least an 8 now. I think probably an 8.5 as well, but for different reasons. I think the main game, I think there's a few flaws which I think for certain folks could really put them off the game a lot. But they're made up for with the side stuff, with the extra modes, which of course you don't get until you beat the main game. But I really think like the extra stuff, I think it's fantastic, really replayable. It's attention grabbing, it's immersive. It can be pretty damn chaotic as well if you're trying to push for better and better times. I haven't really delved into any of the extra challenges and stuff like that, so I couldn't particularly say. But I think anyway, between 8 and 9, I think 8.5, I think is probably about reasonable. I think I would wager.
Yeah, see, mine might go up because I've only played Leon A and Claire B. When I play them the other way round and I start playing on hardcore, my rating might go up because I might enjoy it more because of the challenge. So yeah, I've not fully delved into it like you guys, like properly, but it might change.
You're right, it may also go
It
down
has
because hardcore's pretty nasty when it wants to be.
It has a lot of replayability factor. I think that's why my score is so high as well. You can always go back to a set little different challenges for yourself and strategize a whole different way of playing. And it's got to be pretty high on the list for that point, you know.
Yeah, they done good.
Yeah, no,
pat on the back for Capcom. I was 50-50 at first, especially when I found it weren't going to be the fixed camera angles. I thought, oh, this could be good or it could be really bad. And yeah, pat on the back. They done well. They did it right, I think.
They were very brave, I think, to dig out one of the most classic Resident Evils of all time, bring it forward 20 odd years, completely change how the feeling of the game, the approach of the game, so much of the game has changed. I think even if it had completely failed and fell flat on its ass, I think it's fair to say it was a brave choice to make, and I will not complain at them for that. And it happens, I think they've done a pretty good job of it.
Yeah.
So
they had balls of steel.
And on that bombshell, and yes, Wesker, why are you looking at these damn pictures? What is wrong with you, man? You need some talking to, mate. These damn pictures.
You know, I'm gutted. I missed that because I got the box, you know, the hiding places. I got the box, but I didn't click again to get the film reel, and I was a bit gutted that I missed that.
I mean, it's sad as well. This is worth totally mention of that. Not only did they take the original picture, they've totally remastered it and redone the picture. And I swear it's like, before it was just like her messing around, whereas this one it's like she's taken a proper personal photograph, which somehow Wesker's got a hold of.
Wesker's got his draw.
It's very disturbing. It's very disturbing.
The biggest question is, did she put that there, or did he put it there, or is he secretly stashing that for, you know, I don't know.
Wesker's a sugar daddy.
Is Wesker a sugar daddy?
We know who Jake's mother is now.
And on that bombshell, I think it's probably time to end the stream. So, well, thank you very much for listening. Hopefully everyone's enjoyed both on the stream and the YouTube. Thank you very much for three of you for coming along. It's been a fun little discussion. So there will be more Remake coming up onto the channel eventually. We've got to finish off the last couple of bits of the speedrunning I've been trying to do, which has been difficult but fun. And I'm sure Pete's got plenty more for it to come up as well on your channel, right?
Yeah, I got a few bits left, but a knife run and some of the extra modes, and that's about it for me. I'm going to be done then.
Yeah, fair enough. But I think it's been a busy month of Remake. It'd be nice to have a bit of a break from it myself. We'll be back into the channel a little bit. But with Remake 2 done, that means I need to find a game to fill that void. I think I know what game that's going to be, but I'll get to that in an update video very soon. Regardless, thank you everyone for joining in the chat and on the stream as well. And take care of yourselves, and we'll see you all very, very soon.
Yep. Thanks for the invite, and see you guys soon.
All right, take care, guys. Did someone say, be quiet, Cormag? Zoot.